post 3 months, right? How have we seen the recovery in this part of the world? Are there any markets now that are close to pre-pandemic levels?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for MATTA for inviting me. I think at the floor, a lot more capable and experienced than me. My boss, my CFO, Dato is there. Can we exchange the
Cannot.
Okay, Dato was my DD before. I learned a lot from him. Okay, Dato Zamri, my boss now in MATTA. Thank you very much, Dato. This is like an examination for me. I know it was news yesterday, and I take it as examination. I hope I can pass today. Okay, for the past, of course, with the more relaxed entry requirement, Malaysia is one of the earlier one who relaxed the hassle-free entry. For the 2023, we achieved 10.07 million cruise arrival. We surpassed our original target 9.2 million. So that showed us indicators that we are in good progress of recovery for the tourism. And in terms of the country, of course, the mostly is from ASEAN country, Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, and thank you very much, India. After we have the aggressive promotion, despite of our challenge, India is giving us a good number last year, and we hope that more coming from Middle East, Australia, and with the opening of China, we hope that China will be giving us numbers. For the target 2023, we hope that we will get in 16.1 million tourist arrival, and with the announcement of budget by Honorable Prime Minister for 2023, we are targeting 23.5 million. And this is, of course, we are not only concentrating on the regional market, and we hope we will have a good share from middle and long-haul market. So it's a good sign for the tourism industry in Malaysia, and we hope that our tourism industry player will be cooperate with each other to accommodate and receive the tourists.
So when I hear you, it sounds like the recovery has way surpassed your expectations. You've done very well. The recovery is close to about 10 million passengers arrivals so far, very much centered around Southeast Asia and India, also doing extremely well. Of course, your aspiration is to make it a bit more medium haul, mid haul, long haul. That's also part of the thing with the expectation of China. And you were saying a very interesting point about budget, that you want to hit about 23 million arrivals. Correct me if I'm wrong. How far away, can you help us contrast, where is that number relative to like the pre-pandemic, like in 2019, 2018? Is the number close to that number or even just surpassed that already?
2019, we received 26.8 million, okay? And then, of course, this is the target that we set for 2025. And with the current progress and with the aggressiveness of the industry player, and hopefully with the more connectivity and accessibility, we're confident that we can achieve more than what we achieved.
I'll have to push you. It sounds like 2024 is a very realistic target to be basically hitting pre-pandemic level, right? 2025 is actually not so relevant. Actually, at the rate where you're going, and you're going to hit the number in 23, 24. 24 seems to be in the bag in terms of hitting the pre-pandemic level then.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. Sorry. So I think that's where I just want to bring the airlines into the picture, whether or not they have seen that reflected, right, in the arrivals per se. Whether you see that shift in what Dato was saying just now, that it's very short haul, a bit more Indian-centric. Is that reflected in the airline industry? Are you seeing that growth happening there as well?
Sorry. Can you guys? It's on. All right, sorry. So I think, as what Dato Zainuddin has shared, right? I mean, year to date, February, we already close to 85% of pre-pandemic capacity, with the exception of China. With the slow opening of China, we are expecting Q3 onwards. We will have close to 65% of the capacity that we used to have pre-pandemic. And we are seeing, yes, a lot more short haul now. India is a strong market for us. ASEAN especially. We are seeing trend of short trips, 3-4 days kind of weekend getaways kind of movement. And yes, I'm quite confident. I think 2024, early 2024, we should be at least equal to what we were in 2019.
Because it's a very interesting, when we talk about reopening, and it's true, Malaysia was one of the few markets that opened ahead, right, in the region per se. You had to pivot quite fast, right? At the start, it was very domestic-centric, and then really tap and add on markets as they reopen per se. But do you see that shift towards more international travel? Do you see a shift towards more long-haul, mid-haul, right, in terms of where the travel patterns for MH will be?
For the group, I think when Malaysia opened in April last year, right, I think mostly we're seeing a lot more movement within ASEAN because this region opened first with a lot of restrictions removed. Then we are seeing a lot of travels into Australia, into India, and towards the end of last year, we're seeing North Asia start to pick up. And of course, apart from that, there's a lot of demand into Middle East as well, especially to Saudi for the Umrah market as well. So yeah.
Yeah, so that diversity is very important. And Hannah, bringing you into the picture now. Luqman is talking about him as a perspective of looking at the premium airline, premium network carrier, and so he has a choice of multiple network flows to decide on. When you take a step back view, right, and see where the horizon is, where is it outperforming? Where is it still not there? I mean, naturally, China isn't there yet, but if you look at the markets which are naturally opened, where is it going gangbusters, essentially?
That's an interesting question. I mean, if you look at the flight capacity, like you were saying, Southeast Asia, I think international capacity is still something like 1/3 down versus 2019. Northeast Asia is about 56% down. But other regions, Europe, North America, they're back to pre-pandemic levels. They are really going. I mean, in Southeast Asia itself, you have markets like the Indonesian domestic market. I think that's now surpassed pre-pandemic levels. And generally, it's those countries where they have those high levels of flights where you really need those domestic flights to get around. Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam. That's where you've really seen that kind of recover. Whereas other markets, Singapore, for example, is a bit slower, but outbound is going like gangbusters because they need to get out.
And that's why I think you made a very interesting point that if you contrast Asia versus perhaps global markets like the US, they have basically restored capacity to a certain level. Here, I think the picture is a bit more nuanced. The capacity is not yet back there. Is this a function then of when you hear the market always saying, well, prices are very high, right? Inventory is high, airfares are very high. Is this a function that really that we're having this whole mismatch of demand and supply? That the demand is robust, but the capacity is just not there yet. Is that the reason why we're seeing this whole price yield challenge happening here?
I think it's one of the reasons, yeah, for sure. I mean, whenever you see demand outstripping supply, prices are always going to go high. That's especially the model for airfares, right? I think it also comes down to the fact that there's been a cost of living increase, the fact that oil has increased, and everybody's catching up. I mean, when you look at airlines itself, airfares, I think, in Southeast Asia have been priced extremely low. And to some extent, some people are arguing, well, maybe things are just normalizing. Maybe those fares that were pre-pandemic were kind of the abnormality, and now things are actually getting back to where they should be to be able to pay staff a fair wage. And when you look at the hotel industry as well, you have a lot of workers who've been paid a very low wage for a very long time, and they're struggling to recruit because people don't want to go back into the hotel industry. Therefore, they're having to pay higher salaries, other cost of living is going up, they're going to have to charge more.
And I guess just bringing you back, Luqman, into the picture, the challenge on yield seems to be the issue of cost and supply, and also demand side. The challenge is that cost is rising. We are seeing huge issues on inflation coming through, so there's a lot of pressure to push the price up. But when capacity finally restores, right, we start seeing adding capacity back, right? Do you see yields soften in the midterm horizon then?
I think personally, from MEG point of view, I think the deal will still, at least for 2023, retain, because we're seeing a lot of airline within this region still not back to the full capacity that they have. So I think supply will continue to be a constraint. But as Sana was saying, right, I mean, this could be the new normal for this region to have this kind of pricing, because as you are aware, a flight ticket pre-pandemic is much more cheaper than you to take a Grab from here to KLCC per kilometer base, right? So I think we will normalize, maybe not as high as what we saw in late 2022, early 2023, but we will come to a level which is acceptable for both sides of the supply and demand.
And it's I want to bring you into the picture, Ajay. When with the travel trade industry, right? When you speak to customers, when they come to the office and they talk to you, I want this fare, I want to fly here and there. Is price a consideration still? Or are they saying, look, I have no choice, I just have to fly because I really want to fly?
Well, it's a mixture of both. Yes, people do want to fly. I mean, this ugly term that was coined, revenge travel, I just hate that term. Because as far as I'm concerned, there's no place for vengeance in travel. It's about joy. So, people do want to fly. And, even domestically for us, flights have been full. Internationally, again, fares are high, but flights are still full. Perhaps it's a part of the whole picture where capacity is constrained at the moment. But as things normalize and as capacity increases, I do expect that more and more people will be able to afford to fly. Because let's not forget, inflation is a global phenomenon. People are, yes, they've got money which they didn't spend in those 2 years, but there's still a lot of things that are coming up. And therefore, people do consider price when they're looking at travel. What that has done is it's also perhaps determined the choice of destination. So how far can my currency go? That's a consideration. And how much do visas cost? It's another consideration. And how easy are they to get? So price is a consideration, but there is a demand which is not, being satisfied fully because of capacity, because of prices, a bit of both. But people are looking to travel, that's for sure. And they've also changed, in terms of what they want. The traveler has changed. So they're not looking for the usual, from India it used to be, London, Paris, New York, Rome. We did this big convention in Kochi, in Sarawak, in September. We got 500 people. Malaysia Airlines was our carrier. And, people enjoyed it. It's a new destination that's been opened up to the Indian market. So we'll have to look at a different sort of traveler and the different sort of products that we need to offer to them.
And I wanted to ask you that question about the change that took place pre-pandemic and where it is now, right? I'm sure it's changed a lot. And you gave an example there of where people used to think of the classic destinations like London or Switzerland, people are rolling down the hills, following Bollywood movies and such, but things have changed tremendously. Perhaps you can help me, understand, right? What are the 2 or 3 really big changes from buying intention, right, beyond just the destination, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic for the Indian market, particularly?
So one has been, the advent or the greater advent into personal lives of social media. That's determining where people are going as well. Bragging rights has become an important thing. I have some people who just took a trip to the Antarctic. Now that was like, an unheard of destination for the Indian market. But it's happening. Then you've got the new development, which is your artificial intelligence and chat GPT. So everybody's trying to figure out, does the travel agent have a role to play over here, or is it all going to be taken over by artificial intelligence? But I think that what's needed is a well-informed, knowledgeable travel advisor who can then advise the passenger on what is the best sort of fit for what they're looking for. And I think that's going to determine how relevant people are going to stay in this business. Airlines will continue to fly. Hotels will continue to provide accommodation. The role of the travel agent is what is being questioned today. And I think the changes we're seeing is people make up their own minds, and then do an online research, and then come and say, but I'm getting it at this. And then you have to tell them, look, if you want that, take it. Because when things go wrong, don't come calling me. So, so these are some of the changes in attitude that we are seeing. And one more thing that I'm seeing in the younger generation is the call for a more sustainable, a more environmentally friendly travel experience. Now, they're not always willing to pay for it, but they do want to talk about it. So, yeah, that's where we are.